Hi, welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. I am Kenney Baden. As you know, we are in a live trial right now in Texas, where Wesley Mathews has pleaded to a crime that allows the jury to hear in a sentencing phase everything that happened to his daughter, 3-year-old Sharon Mathews. Injury by omission. Injury is death. Omission, we are now listening to the pediatrician on the stand for the little girl who took care of her and reported the case to Child Protective Services. Let's hear what happened. Just as I come on the air, of course, we have a little bit of a break. I'd like to bring back in our guest, Dr. Carole Lieberman. Hello, Dr. Lieberman. How are you?
Hi there. Fine, thank you.
Dr. Lieberman, before, when I was in here waiting for it to change with Michael Bryan, you asked the question, why wasn't this case reported to CPS, or was it? And it turns out that the pediatrician, Dr. Susan Deckel, just announced she did report this case to the Child Protective Services Agency in Texas, and apparently the case was about to be closed. What went wrong here?
Oh, this is so, unfortunately, the story that we hear time and time again all over this country, where CPS drops the ball. I mean, obviously, the doctor did what she was supposed to do, which is to contact them. You know, there were all these signs, not only of abuse in terms of the bone scan and all that, but there were signs when the family left the clinic, left the Wing Clinic, didn't want to see her anymore. Said they were going to see their own pediatrician. These are all warning signs as well that should have caused her and CPS to pay even more attention to the family that they were trying to hide.
Well, doctor, let's go back into the courtroom because the pediatrician is continuing her testimony. Yeah. This is the cross of the pediatrician of the little girl who died, Sharon Mathews. I mean, you could see that she kind of has a tear in her eye. Now, the attorney, who is Rafael de la Garza, who did the opening, is doing what he has to do. But I'd like to bring my guest, Dr. Carole Lieberman, in. Carole, you are an expert in how also juries react, okay, in these cases. Now, I know he has a point, okay? I know he has a point. All the appointments that the parents or parent took the child to showed some caring. But if you're just going to ramble it, sit at your desk like I'm going to do down here and say, would it be fair, without each one going on a board and emphasizing it, what effect does it have on the jury?
They're falling asleep at that point.
Yeah, I am too.
I know. Besides, I don't know how the doctor can say yes to all these things without her notes in front of her. Certainly she doesn't remember the dates. Even if she had read, she said she read all the records, but certainly she doesn't remember the dates that she saw these various people. And what it points out is that I think the family, the parents, had, when they first adopted her, may well have had good intentions. And when she got here and she had these defects, as I was talking about before, that the father used that word, they tried to fix her. They tried to do what they could. They took her to lots of appointments. And then what happened was, at some point, the father at least got very frustrated because they weren't fixing her, and he was getting, and she was then beginning to have behavior problems at home, and he just lost patience with her, and until finally he killed her.
Yeah, you know what I don't understand here, though, to me there's something one-off, Dr. Lieberman, that we're not getting the whole story. Do you think we're getting the whole story?
There is a lot more. I mean, what I would like to know, if I was the forensic psychiatrist on this case, I would want to know more about the parents. Like, was it just the mother's idea to adopt this child in the first place? Did the father just go along with it? He didn't really want to do it because they had a child. Why did they adopt a child around the same age as the biological child that they had? What was their whole mindset coming into all of this? And why, why wasn't the mother, I wonder, by the way, because of the father's callous attitude and his being very controlling and so on with the drink your milk, I wonder if maybe there isn't some domestic violence going on in that house.
Well, Dr. Lieberman, you bring some really good points. Say that thought, because I want to delve into the relationship and what really may be going on. But right now, we're going to take a quick break. We are in the case of State versus Wesley Mathews in Texas. Come back to listen to and care about the life of a little girl, Sharon, who's deceased. Okay, so what happened there, as we came back in from our break, the cross-examination of the pediatrician of the young child who is now dead, Sharon Mathews, ended. And what happened is he went a little bit to redirect thereafter, which was very short, and then there was no re-cross-examination. So the state is now bringing in the next witness, as we know, Dr. Lieberman. I thought that was a very effective witness for the state. What say you?
Yes, you know, she was a little, as the time went on, you know, she came on strong at the beginning, and she was a little withered, you know, with the cross-examination, but still, she seemed totally believable, credible, professional. I think she was a very good witness for the state.
Yeah, and here's the problem I had. We have an easy case. This is a sentencing. This man pled guilty. This girl is dead. She was like 19 pounds before she died from the last weigh-in. And the prosecution asked the pediatrician, let me quote, you know, after you found out she was dead, how did that make you feel? We're watching video, by the way, of the child, the family. How did that make you feel? Objection. The judge lets it in, and then the pediatrician says, angry. I have a problem with injecting objectionable testimony that could reverse the sentence into a case that's easy. Have you seen that before?
Well, you know, it's interesting that she said angry. She didn't say who she was angry at. It kind of was just left there. It does bring...
Does that make it more of a problem because it was left there?
Possibly. I mean, I guess the idea is to show, you're supposed to, for the state, is to show her as more of an objective, professional doctor rather than someone who has these feelings. On the other hand, certainly, if you're a doctor and you're caring for a child and you find out months later that the child is missing and likely dead, of course you're going to have feelings. You know, maybe she was angry at herself for not doing more.
We have a witness who's qualifying herself. So while we're doing that, let's explore one more area that you and I talked about. So the mother, the charges were dismissed. I know the police were upset. She, according to the pediatrician, had the little girl during the day. I wonder several things. Was she a DV victim, domestic violence, or was she cooperated with the police and therefore this was the way out? Or did the father take all the blame so that the mother would not go to jail? Or is it just the way it happened? The father did it and did whatever it is that killed the young child. We don't know what that is yet, and that's the way it is. Four, what do you think of those four?
Well, any of those are possible. I mean, I think I actually had thought early on in seeing the father and hearing some of it early that he could largely because of his intolerance and his need for control when he was telling the story about how the little girl wasn't drinking her milk and he was just getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And if, you know, it's presumably true that he then, I mean, his account of how she then, that she choked and so on, but he put her in a garbage bag. I mean, all of these things, it was a very angry man who wants to have his way, who wants to control things. He was really angry she was being not behaving well. In fact, he goes through his whole long story about how he, you know, was punishing her more and more and more to get her to drink her milk. And I thought to myself, you know, he must be that way with his wife as well, that if she doesn't do things exactly the way that he wants, he probably gets fed up with her and more and more and more and punishes her more, perhaps to the point of domestic violence.
Well, doctor, I'd love to have you do a clinical psychiatric interview of him, but right now we have to take a quick break. Stay with us. We're in the case of Texas versus Wesley Mathews for the killing of his 3-year-old adopted daughter.